Well, it looks like it's the official end of a cultural era. Although DVD rental giant Blockbuster has steadily been closing down stores for years now, yesterday it was officially announced that the company would be closing the doors on all of their remaining 300 stores in the coming months, including their DVDs by mail service. However, the company will reportedly keep operating its online digital service. Dennis, what do you think about the demise of Blockbuster?
I didn't know they were still around. I mean, I thought they were, done like several years ago. I guess if I knew they were still around, I would say it's inevitable. It's interesting because Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix in 2000 for about $50 million. It's worth billions of dollars now. Yeah. Gee, I wonder if they're regretting that decision. And it's their own fault. They saw the writing on the wall, and they chose to do nothing about it. Yeah. They sat around, they saw what the future was, and like, nah, we're going to stick with this. It reminds me a lot of Kodak. Right. Remember Kodak? Like, everyone's like, oh, everything's turning digital. Kodak's, no, we're still going to do film. We're still going to do film. So they got a late entry into the digital camera realm. They got, they just kept trying to push all their resources into, like, getting people to still use film. And as you see, look, it's still being used today, but every year, like, you see the Arri Alexas, the Red cameras, everything is just starting to take over both movies and television. Yeah. So I think Blockbuster, apparently they're going to stick around as an online service. I just don't know how useful that's going to be.
The thing about Blockbuster is, and actually there's still one in Hollywood, I believe, and I know there's still one in Burbank that I drive by every once in a while. At first I thought it was a museum of some kind. But here's the thing. I remember when, you're right, the Blockbuster didn't take advantage of the deal to buy Netflix. And then not too long later, they realized, oh, that was a mistake. Let's just copy what they're doing. And they started a DVD by mail service. And I remember at the time, they did something, what I thought at the time was very, very cool. Blockbuster wanted to take advantage of the fact that they still had brick and mortar stores. So what they did was, they offered, hey, get 3 DVDs at a time, kind of like what Netflix had at the time. But if you return the movies to the physical store, you can still mail them back, but if you return the movies to the physical store, you get a bonus DVD on top of it. So they were like trying to copy the best of Netflix and leverage the fact that they had all these brick and mortar stores. It was a really good idea. The problem was they had waited to the point where that almost everybody who was interested in DVDs by mail was already signed up with Netflix. Mm-hmm. It was way too little, way too late. It's the same thing with their digital stuff now too. Like, they're going to keep operating as a digital streamer, but I think they were far too late to that game as well. I don't expect them to last very long. But I got to tell you, look, was it inevitable? Yes. We all saw that South Park episode where the one dad bought the Blockbuster for just $10,000, and it was like a ghost town, right? As inevitable as it was, I gotta tell you, there's a little pang of sadness in me. Because so much of my late teenage and early 20s years was spent with buddies or dates or whatever, going to the Blockbuster, picking out a couple of great movies. Some nights they had the specials, 3 movies for $6, boom, 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 or 3 movies for $5, and you just grab a bunch and go home, order some ridiculously inexpensive and bad for you food, and just watch these movies. And that was so much of my life from like 18 to 25. And to see that they are now finally, giving up the ghost, as it were, it's inevitable. But it's sad. So
yeah, the nostalgia factor is there for me as well. Even nowadays, well, before, I would go home for the holidays, and then me and my sister would go to the Blockbuster and pick out a movie to bring home. I always had to find a movie that like everyone in my family would want to watch, which is like the hardest thing ever, because everyone wants to see something different. So yeah, I'll miss that, but they're not going to keep it open just for you and me to like reminisce about the past.
Because how often do we go back to reminisce?
Yeah.
Never. It reminds me, like 7 years ago, one of the most popular articles I ever wrote from my old website called The Movie Blog, going back like 7 years. I wrote this article because what was the big problem? You were just kind of describing it. You and your girlfriend want to get a movie? Fine. The two of you go to Blockbuster and you're there for an hour because you cannot agree on what to get. So I wrote this article on how to solve that problem. And the basic premise of my article was this. Okay, you take turns in this sense. Let's say Whitney and I were going to the Blockbuster. And so it's her turn. So what happens is Whitney picks 3 movies. and now I get to pick out of those 3. And then next time, I pick out 3 movies, and she gets to pick the 1 movie out of that 3. And it was a very popular article, all based around Blockbuster, but those days are now gone.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news, and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.